Hey crafters, it's Kels from Scrapbook.com, and I'm here to introduce you today to the Ranger Ink Inkssentials non-stick craft sheet. This is the craft sheet, and this is how it comes packaged to you. It comes rolled up in this tiny petite little box, all ready to go, and it's basically a crafter's must-have. You have to own this. It will protect your work surface. Nothing sticks to it. It's absolutely wonderful. You can see right out of the box it's going to be clean, crisp, beautiful, flat. It's not going to have any dents or folds or tears or cuts in it. It's absolutely perfect, and this will save your life if you like messy projects. Today I want to show you the craft mat, and I'm going to be working on my old, wrinkled, junked up one. So you can see I have had this one for a really long time. I have loved it. I have used it and reused it and put it through some serious misery. But I love it. I can't say enough good things about it. So let's just get right to it. First of all, it is flat and it is thin. And the nice thing about that is that you can roll it up and store it away. I do recommend not folding it. It will permanently crease and the folds will break down the laminated nonstick surface. So don't fold it. Store it flat like this. You can always leave it out on your work surface. It's a nice neutral color in any craft space. Or you can simply roll it up and put it away for the next project. Now mine looks like this because I typically wash it off in the sink. So I take it in my sink, I run it under water, and I just move it side to side like this until it's clean. I flip it over, I do the other side. I use both sides of this. It just depends on what project I'm working on. And as you can see, it is pretty flat. Some of my corners have bent, but nothing significant that would damage the craft mat to the point where I can't use it. So one of the things that it's great for is inking, simple inking. So I'm just going to take my distress pad and my ink blending tool and a piece of paper, and while this is a water-soluble ink, it's going to only stick to my paper and it's going to resist sticking to the craft mat. So it's really easy to clean up. You can see a faint brown border there where I had the ink. And all I have to do is take a paper towel and wipe it off to clean my work surface and get it out of the way. And you can see a little bit of color will come off on my towel, not a whole lot. So that's the number one thing it's great for, is just inking the edges of anything at all. The second thing that I really like it for is stamping off the edge of something. So for example, if you have a card, an A2 size sheet of paper, and you want to stamp an image, but you want the card to be sort of asymmetrical or playful, and you don't necessarily want to stamp the image entirely on the surface of the cardstock or whatever paper medium you're using, you can simply use your craft mat to stamp off the edge of any of your cardstock, and then you can see you can create a collage with all of these stamps. And again, you'll have a little bit of blue ink right here in this corner, and it can just be wiped away. No damage to your surface, really easy to move on to your next project. Simply put your materials away and you've protected your surface. Another interesting fact about the craft mat is that you can emboss or paint on this. So if you have an embossing project, so for example, the image I just stamped, if I want to pour my embossing powder out onto this image, and if I actually want to heat directly onto this mat is heat resistant, so it will resist your heat gun. Your embossing powder will finish, and if your embossing powder does get stuck to your mat for whatever reason, all you have to do is take an old credit card or gift card or something and just scrape it against the mat, and all of your little embossed particles will just fly right off. Again, I do recommend doing this on a surface, over a sink, into a garbage can, something like that, so that your little embossing bits don't just end up all over your craft space. But it's really great for embossing and, again, painting. So this is a Lindy's Stamp Gang paint. I would add my own water to this powder, and then I can essentially pour a little bit out or scoop a little bit out with my paintbrush and dab it on here, and I can go to town. I can use acrylics and I can paint. I can even let it dry overnight. Any type of water-based paint, like an acrylic or any medium that you might use on this mat, you again can take your credit card or your hard scraper and just scrape the paint right off. And a lot of times with acrylic, you can just grab it and peel it off. it won't stick to your mat. Or you can wash it off in the sink when it's still wet, or run a paper towel over the wet surface. Just if you have a lot of paint, I do recommend finding a sink. One more thing I really love using this nonstick craft mat for, is any type of masking, misting, anything. You can spray on this, and again, it just beads up and it wipes right away. So I'm going to demo that for you. These are just some Resist self-adhesive chipboard letters from Heidi Swapp, and you can see if I wanted to spray them right on the backer, I might get the letters around them the same color, and maybe I don't want that. Maybe I want to use them for a different project. Sometimes the backer comes off with the letter and I just throw it to the side. Sometimes it doesn't. It gets stuck in here, and then I either have to pull this backer out and keep it attached to my letter so that I don't lose the sticky back on my letter. One of the great things about the Ranger Craft Mat is that I can literally take these, sticky and all, and set them right down here, and guess what? They're not going to stick because it's nonstick. So they're just going to come right back off, which I love. So now I can play with them with no backing on them whatsoever. I can get them totally ready. I can spray them and even let them dry right here and then place them on my project, and they're still sticky, which I totally love. I also love that I can mist either the negative or the positive image, or both, and I can even mist it onto a piece of cardstock, and I can simply, by moving my mat around, I can protect my surface. So if I want a one here and I want some red mist on it, but I don't want red mist anywhere else, my Ranger sheet will help me protect simply by sort of rolling it over onto itself. So let me show you that little technique. Basically, if I want a one at the bottom of this card, I'm just going to roll my mat over, I'm going to get my mist ready, and I'm going to spray in the direction where there's no additional cardstock. So I'm going to spray toward my mat and my surface that I've protected, okay? And voila, now I don't have any stray mist on my cardstock. And my mat can just be wiped down in an instant. Move your project away first. Wipe and wipe, and you're ready to move on to the next project. Okay, so let's show the letters. Again, these are not sticking to my mat, so I'm super happy about that. And maybe I want to use this entire negative image instead of just the positive image that I put on here. Maybe I'll use this on a separate project. My daughter just turned 1 year old, so I'm just going to go ahead and heavily mist these. And again, remember, this is not Resist, but these are Resist. So I'm gonna just quickly take, and again, they're sticky. They're stuck to my mat enough that they'll stay, and I'm just going to now be able to blot them so that you can see the Resist, but I don't have to move them at all. They're stuck to my awesome craft sheet enough to where I can work with them until I get them looking exactly the way I want them to for my project. And then when it's all done and dry and set and gone, then I can move everything off. I can wipe things down. Again, I could take this to the sink. Once my letters are dry, I could pick my letters off and take this to the sink. But obviously for the purpose of this demo, I'm just gonna kind of try and get most of this out of the way here. But you can see, it's gonna maybe stain on your craft sheet just a tiny bit until you can get it to some water, or you can bring the water to it. You can take a mini mister or spray bottle, and once your letters have been moved out of the way and all you have is your bare craft mat with ink, you can spritz the water on it. It'll loosen up the ink properties a little bit and allow you to just wipe it right off without ever leaving your scrap space. So I highly recommend the Ranger Inkssentials Nonstick Craft Sheet to every crafter, no matter what your project is, whether it's scrapbooking, painting, maybe you're a jewelry maker and you're working with clays and resins and plastics and shrinks and things like that. No matter what the project, it's an awesome tool to have in your space.